Hello and welcome to BAM Club. Today on the show, we are discussing a much demanded for topic, raising African children abroad. So just as there is no manual for parenting abroad makes the journey even more interesting. Yes, so we'll just dive right into it. So for many immigrant parents, there's always a struggle between the cultures and traditions of their heritage and that of the societies they have found themselves in. So I just want to ask as maybe as individuals really, what were your biggest culture shocks?
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for having us or having me on BAM Club. I'm really excited, to share my experiences. Now, culture shocks. First of all, you get over the shock yourself. You know, the shocks you got yourself, the weather, the food, it doesn't taste the same. It doesn't matter who says what, the bananas don't taste the same. Even the chips don't taste the same. So you get over that. I was personally lucky that I stayed here for a long time before the babies came. So I kind of looked at other parents to see what they were doing before my own children came. But it doesn't matter how much you look. It doesn't matter how much you hang around them. When your own come, you've got to learn the hard way yourself. Now, the first culture shock with children comes with maybe not so much the antenatal care and all that, but when the baby comes. The nurses, the midwives, the things they tell you to do, it's not the things that parents did, you know? There is that whole aspect of family when you've had a baby. It's not there. That comfort of having mommy come, auntie come, this one is going to help with this, that one is going to help with this, it's not there. So for these people, they are it's okay for you to have a baby and be on your own. After all, they're going to send you a midwife, they're going to send you a health visitor, and it's okay. And then you find there are so many things that come with having a baby that you need to deal with. And you're thinking, this culture is a bit, how do they? And when you have, let me say English friends, they kind of don't understand why you're not, did a health visitor come? If you have those lonely moments of just being on your own, just after having a baby, they'll ask if your midwife came. They won't ask you if your sister came around, if your auntie came around, and if anything, they will discourage it. For me, not having to do the things the Sengas did, you have to do Togero, all those things were absent, Apart from really not having your parents there's even no one to stand in as a parent. And if anything, let's say if somebody was at home and the midwife is coming, if there were people who had been here already, then they'll tell you they have to leave because nobody's supposed to be there when the midwife comes, and you're thinking, this doesn't work. So for me, that initial setting, it was so difficult for me. It was so difficult.
Pamela, thank you very much for inviting me to the show. Vicky, that was quite a handful. I think my experience is quite different from yours. I think I was lucky. I had my mom here and my siblings who kind of filled that big gap. So I think also the fact that I think just like you, I had about 12 years in the country before having my first child, and I've seen many of my friends have children and gone to visit them. So I kind of knew what to expect. So it wasn't really a shock, but like Vicky said, with your own, it's always different. The manual, you can read the manual, you can do everything, but it's never the same. I think one thing I must say is I had a very supportive husband. And he did quite a lot. I suffered a lot in the beginning when I had my first child. And I think, we're not really agreeing very well with me. My motherhood wasn't agreeing with me. And my husband did a lot of, the night bits of, get the baby out of the bed. I think I was very distressed, I just say, okay, feed the baby and I'll do my part. My mom played a very big role, but like Vicky said, there is always a difference in culture. How it was like, wrap the baby. So every time mommy came, wrap the baby, the midwife told us, you know, your baby should feel as much as you do. So if you feel hot, your baby feels hot, then don't wrap yourself. So I think it was just one of those things that if mother is coming, wrap the baby. If midwife is coming, unwrap the baby. So we had at first it was, I think, daunting, like bathe the baby. My mom did the first couple of baths. I think she would come every morning to give my daughter a bath, which kind of helped quite a lot. You know, when I was pregnant, I ate boomba. And when my daughter was born, she obviously had clay in her hair. And the doctors were like, you know, you and your husband know exactly what you did. And the funny thing, you know, Vicky talked about chogero, and I just remember a friend of mine had a situation where, you know, when the health visitor comes at home, they basically would want to see how you do certain things like bathe your child. They'll just ask you, so where are you at now? And my friend was going to bathe the child, so she brought all her things, and the midwife is there viewing, and she brings along her chogero to put the baby in, and the midwife is like, what are you doing? So absolute culture shock here. So for us, I must say, I didn't have a chogero. It came later on. We had an aunt send it over, but I think what people usually do in the UK, they use tea leaves. There's these Ugandan tea leaves that, you know, you boil and then, you know, put your baby in. Apparently it's supposed to be a similar blessing, but, you know, I think that's as much as culture we could go. So it was tough, but I think we made it. Yeah.
Can I quickly add something? We come from a culture that says, when you make the baby sleep on their tummy,
yeah,
you help with the colic, they sleep better. You know, I put the baby upside down, and for me, it was perfectly fine. I mean, isn't that how babies sleep? She almost, I mean, and then she gave me a lecture on code death and why they shouldn't be. And but like Pamela said, midwife is coming, you do what culture says you do. No. When you're at home alone or everybody around, you do what culture says. Midwife is coming, you do what, you know, the UK says you do. So you flip the baby, you bath them the way they want you to bath them, but all those other things that you want to do. And then you kind of realize, you know what, and then my own, they're 7 years apart. What have you done? Oh, there was a Nigerian midwife. She's like, I know exactly what she did. And they told me, you don't just like go and clean it all off in one go because you destroyed the cradle cup. So just, those things we did. I mean, we had to eat bomba for some reason. I don't know why, but we did. So all those things. And then you go home and then there's mumba on the table because, you went in a hurry. And then the midwife is freaking out. What is all this in your house? It's like some train you've been running while you were pregnant.
First of all, for me, I want to speak about my experience as Shifa, and it's my lived experience. It's not for all Germans that live all Ugandans that live in Germany. And when I speak about Germans, I only speak about where I live and what I have experienced. So for me, because I came when my children were a bit older, about 8-9 years, my first shock was when I saw a child shout at their parents. I was like, what? I actually did, like, my God, I told you, are you shouting at your mother? And the mother said, no, that's okay here. He's defending himself. I'm like, what do you mean he's defending himself? You're his mother. So my children know every time they try to raise their voice at me, I tell them, you know what? I am a Ugandan. I'm not a German. I'm not yet a German, and you are not yet a German. So you speak to me as a Ugandan. You will not be raising your voice at me. They can give their opinion. They can defend themselves. That's okay, usually, which is not what we have in Uganda. Me, I grew up when you don't speak back at elders. They can speak back. They can give their opinion, but they cannot shout at me. And then the second thing that then shocked me is something to do with the parents, the younger ones. Again, within the community, within the people that I interacted with, when I learned that in Germany, you don't bathe a baby every day. In Uganda, we used to bath a baby 3 times. Here, they say you bath a baby every 3 days. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I mean, they say, yeah. So that shocked me. Like, really, I still can't deal with it now. My children, they must bathe every day and use changwe and ebekuta until they are clean. Don't tell me those things of Ate soap will spoil your skin, takes away the natural oils. Blood. I will tell my children to bath every day. Then the other thing, we grew up for us in Uganda. Lunch, dinner comes from fire. It's burning, smoking hot. Here, I can feed my children sandwiches. I can tell them, go to the fridge and make yourself a sandwich for dinner. And that's okay. So for me, in the very beginning, I used to cook every day. Summer, it's very hot, 34, 36 degrees outside. And I'm in the kitchen cooking. All the walls are burning, boiling hot. And I learned that in summer, you make a sandwich, you make a salad. It's okay to have these things for dinner. I have my neighbors who are giving their children cucumbers here and there, carrot here. And are you guys having dinner? Yes. Where's the food? This is the food. I'm like, what? No way. Then the other thing that then I noticed is that when the kids came in Uganda, the kids used to study from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then here, they were studying from 7:45 to 12:15. And we were all like, what? Now, this was good because I was so tired of that really, really long stretch of school. And then they had so much homework, 10 numbers, 12 numbers. So for them, that was a relief. That was a shock to me. Sometimes they would come home without homework. And that was surprising. Because sometimes they would come home when they finished the homework because it was so little. So for us, that was a shock to me. And then I remember one major malo moment. Okay, here we did malo. One day, the kids were going to school. They sent us a taxi. First and foremost, school here is free. And then they sent us a taxi. It was a Mercedes-Benz. Yeah, so we did major malo there. Please, sorry, my fellow Ugandans. But the kids were shocked. They talked about it. We took pictures. The taxi driver was like, who are these people? But he was major shocked, but so were we. But it was really, really good. And they were picked and dropped every day with them, a Mercedes. And for us, I'm sorry, Mnange, these were new things to us, so we didn't know. And then lastly, I remember when my neighbor, an old man, found my son cleaning the staircase. He looked at my son like as if he was watching a movie. He was amazed. He looked at him and smiled and called him and gave him sweets. What are you doing? I'm helping my mommy clean the staircase. Like, what? Like, yeah, this is normal. And then the son there, a younger boy, he was about 7, 8, asked my son to go and play. And my son said, no, I cannot go. I have to help my mom.
I think it just reminded me the aspect of respect. I think internally in public, we kind of have this thing whereby you throw your child the eye and they know like mommy's eye, it just speaks volumes, and I think this is one situation where you feel like culture works for you and you're able to speak in your language and you're like, Jakukuba, or, you mentioned Sapatu and, when they hear Sapatu, they just know, oh my God, that means, maybe I'm going to be bitten and they always behave themselves. So I'm glad you brought up the respect.
Yeah, I love to hear these stories because even if I hear about them from my relatives and my friends who are abroad, it kind of rings new each and every time. But yeah, I kind of understand most of that. And just to reiterate from where Shifa was coming from, I love that taxi story because the day it happened to me, I also took pictures. So I understand that. So, Africans and maybe mostly the older generations, we believe in collective parenting. And we also subscribe to the school of thought that children have no rights. So can you maybe share with us your highlights about the differences between how you were raised in Uganda and the way that you are raising your children now? Just highlight like key pointers.
Oh, that one. What did you say? Kids, parents what? Have rights? Kids don't speak back. My dear, here things are for agreeing and things are for rights. So children have rights. Now, that one, when it comes to respect and children's rights, really, actually, I learned children's rights from my son because very quickly I was going to parent my son because I had him for so long. So it was him for a long time. I thought the best way to parent my son was the way my mother parented me. My mother was for all shouting, all chiboko, very quickly, slap, slap, slap. And now, the one principle I have carried along is you can only parent a child you have been given. You cannot, there was no way I was going to take my mother's script and use it on my son. My son was humble, he was kind, he was quiet, he was you know. But because I was trying to do what my mother used to do on him, I thought it was going to work. Not realizing that every time I shouted at him, he went into a shell. Until one day he got his voice and he told me, I remember very well, he was 3 years old. He told me, Mommy, I don't like it when you shout at me. I can hear you. I will do what you tell me to do, but please don't shout at me. And that was it. I changed my parenting. And because of who he is, he does things. Shouting does not work with him. Chiboko was thrown away. I can't even remember how many times I've beaten him or slapped because he does not call for it. But fast forward to Pamela's best friend, because if I mention her name, she will come out. That one, so there are two very different characters. Our way of parenting, the way I saw with my parents, do it with my mom, the way my mom did it, the way my dad did it, was not going to work for my children. I had to learn who they are, and I parent them differently. Because they are so different, they have different characters. One is feisty, one is quiet, one is fearless, one is respectful. The other one is ready to knock down all boundaries. Set them high, she will jump high. It doesn't matter which boundaries you set for her, she will jump through them. Whereas the other one, so how am I supposed to get one brush over children and say, I'm going to do it the way my mom did it? You know, so it's, for me, that was my shock. And I'm like, okay, because they have all the rights they have, because remember, much as your parent, while you're parenting at home, they're being told things at school. So if you're not doing it the way the school wants to do it, then you start clashing. You start clashing, then the walls go high. And then before you know it, who gets stressed in that situation? It's mommy. So me, I choose peace over war.
So if I can speak for myself, so before I came here, I used to be in an American group where people were discussing, mothers were discussing which help can help you raise your children well. And they said, pick a German. Germans are strict. So I was like, okay, good. So for me, in the family that I'm in, where I'm raising my children, while we do not beat, and that is forbidden, here, they are as strict as Ugandans. The only difference is that there's no cane, but you are accountable for everything. There's nothing like it was just a joke. They are just children. You are accountable for all your actions. You must explain why you did what you did. Even if you left a pen lying where it's not supposed to be, at least in my family, you must account for everything. You can't say, I don't know. I don't know is not an answer. Because they know you have a brain as a child, you can use it, reason. So for me, that has helped me to continue to raise my children in the way that I want, in the culture of being strict and being straight and not, morally cold. I still have that option of raising them and being strict on them. And for other things that I don't, I tell them, I'm going to write all these things down. The moment we step off the plane in Uganda, I'm going to get a stick and beat you for everything that you did. So for me, that is it. And then the other thing that I noticed, that here you do not have an option of a child not going to school. Your children must go to school whether you want or not. If they miss 2 days without a reason, they will send police for you. Where is the child?